Well,
What's
it's
happening,
Friday
Ted?
evening. How are you doing?
Good. How about you?
A little tired.
Street came to an end today.
Oh no.
Had one that they're not gonna buy.
And you're sure of it.
Pretty sure. Just couldn't find any pain other than they want some heat,
Okay.
and they're okay with it if it doesn't feel as good as what they got, as
Okay.
long as it's some heat. They're just planning on selling the house in a couple of years.
Okay. So, but how did the streak come to an end?
They're not gonna buy. They told me no.
Oh, they bought from somebody else?
They haven't bought from anybody else yet, but they're gonna be looking for somebody less expensive.
Oh, okay. So,
Couldn't build enough value, couldn't find enough pain. They were a young couple, one car, very empty house. Um, didn't have the money, probably did have credit, but they're wanting to replace the compressor on a 20-year-old heat pump. So if they can find somebody to repair it, that's the route they'll go. But it's also R22, so I don't know who's going to do that.
you guys can't do that?
Mm-mm.
Hmm.
We can't or won't. We can, but we won't.
Oh,
So I mean, you can't. I guess you can find recycled R22. My company's
were they flat?
the compressor was failed, so it's a burnout
Oh,
right
so
there.
that you can't clean that oil.
No,
Okay. So they would need to repair that and buy a whole charge.
right. And so you can buy a substitute R22, but that oil, that burnt oil, is going to be all in that coil, the air handler. So why would you spend $3,000 or $4,000 as a company, even charging them $3,000 or $4,000, and then it burns out again because you can't get all that acid out? And so that would be, I don't know exactly what the rule of do no harm is, but that sounds like it to me. Not to offer a repair on that.
Okay.
What do you think?
Um, I'm a pretty firm believer that it's your responsibility to help them understand the risks associated with the choices that they want to make so that they own the risk. And that would be the case there as well. And I think that you are capable of conveying that, because I think you conveyed it to me. Seems like a bad decision to spend $4,000 or $5,000 to try and repair this 20-year-old piece of equipment. But if that's the path you'd like to take, and you're willing to hold us harmless, okay.
Appreciate that. However, my company
Won't let
would
you.
not. No,
Yeah.
they won't let me.
And I'm fine with that as the company policy. Because I imagine that they've went from repairing these at one point to deciding it was not to their advantage to repair them. And so I imagine they've experienced some pitfalls with going ahead and repairing old systems that they've decided just not to do it.
Yeah.
And you know, those guys would have to tell you the stories and the why, and the why is probably a very good why.
Yep. Yep.
And it may come down to just not having people that know what they're doing,
Mhm.
you know, because that may be a fair amount of. So one of my friends is like these guys follow paths, right? And one of the paths they follow is they get into the refrigeration business. And that's like a pretty technical path. If you're an HVAC guy and then you go and you get into refrigeration, you really know this stuff. And so sounds like something that he'd figure out how to fix if somebody wanted to fix it. But that's how he is. He fixes stuff.
Right.
And he has a tremendous amount of knowledge and experience. So
Like a smart guy.
yeah, he went to college to be in the HVAC business.
Wow.
So he's got a degree in it. I don't know. Is that a loss?
Well, I mean, on the rebound, we started a new streak for 2024. So bounce back with conversion of heat or furnace and AC to a heat pump.
So the second lead, you did an electrification.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah,
And
I'm not willing to call that one a loss until you find out somebody else sold them.
right.
Because
We'll see.
there is no unless they buy from somebody else, nobody won that sale.
Right. Right.
So tell me about your electrification.
Yes, electrification. She's she bought a house in October, hired the wrong person to remodel her house. Like remodel the kitchen, paint the house, pull up carpets, put down new flooring, update the bathrooms maybe. Anyway, she gave him too much money up front and he kind of disappeared on her for a couple months, and she finally got him back involved, and it's finally getting done for the most part. They tried to get the hot water heater turned on, and she called the gas company to relight the pilot light, which set off a red flag because then they were looking at the furnace and they saw some things they didn't like that was questionable. So they condemned it, condemned
The
the
gas
furnace.
company did.
Yep.
Okay.
And then and so that she couldn't turn the gas back on to the furnace, they locked the meter.
Okay.
So that started this process of it was that $8.88 Thanksgiving Black Friday sale at Home Depot, whatever, for a tune-up. Different company came out this time than from last time that we had this lead, and they told her all the things that were wrong with it, and she needed a new one. You know, goes from $8 tune-up to got to have a new system. but they couldn't give a good explanation of why, and
Again,
didn't put anything in writing. Again,
again,
different
no.
company. So then she
Although the
decided,
gas company's got her red tag, so
yeah. So this time she didn't like their explanation, so she decided she's going to call Lowe's. She didn't like Home Depot's explanation, so she calls Lowe's. Lowe's sends out the company that went to the other job last time that we were dealing with.
okay.
And they tell her, oh yeah, the same thing. We gotta have a new furnace, but no good explanation. So she starts searching the internet, sees our company, we have good reviews, invited us out. Our technician goes out. He says, I'm not sure, I don't know why they condemned this, but I did find a crack in the heat exchanger. And
Okay.
I'm sure they didn't find this, or they would have documented it and they would have shown you photos. He had a really good picture
Okay.
of the crack. So she's got to replace it. And now she
Okay.
understands why. So,
That doesn't seem like it requires a PhD in psychology to explain.
right. Right. So she felt like both of those companies were trying to just sell her something.
Not to help her. Like
Right. And
B or
she,
whatever that lady Dot, what was her name? The
uh,
grandmother?
yeah, Veta, I believe.
Beta.
And so uh, she said it felt too familiar with the contractor that's currently trying to remodel her house,
Right.
taking advantage of her. And so she called us up. We had good reviews. I said, look,
The tech
we should
used tech took good care of her.
check. And he took good care of her and explained it to her. And so, in a very non-threatening way, I'll be glad to come out and help you build a specification to which you can get some people to bid to, so you can have an apples to apples comparison
Which she
for
wishes
this
she
replacement.
had when she renovated her house instead of just hiring a handyman who told her that she could build him the Taj Mahal.
Mm-hmm. Right. So I send her the comfort quiz, and I said, look, I know you hadn't even moved in here,
Oh,
but
right.
just think about you know what experiences you would like to avoid. Maybe tell me if there's any health issues with anybody that's going to be moving into the home.
One of the things you want to do if you get in a situation where the people haven't really lived there very long is say, we like it if people have been in their homes a while, because they really help us understand if there's something wrong based on their experience. And so when they haven't been in their homes a long time, the one thing that you could do is let me know some of the experiences that you've had in other homes that you didn't like.
Right. She fills out the comfort quiz, comes back with like a score of like 22,
Right. Right.
because she's wanting to avoid all these things. And
Right. Well, I don't
her,
want that. I don't want that. I don't want that. I don't know if I have any of these things, but they all bother me.
right. So anyway, so I go over to her home. Well, I talked to her on the phone a good bit, and just trying to understand her situation a little better, and just reassuring her that we're not here to hurt. We're here to help. We're not going to ask for any money up front, like
We're not going to go away for
other.
6 months on a trip to the Bahamas.
Right. You don't pay us until we're done. We offer financing if you need it. Would love to come out and help you build a specification. You can have other people bid to
No
where,
hurry, no rush on your end.
right. But then she started creating some urgency because she's feeling like this is wrapping up pretty soon and she wants to get moved in there. So anyway, she gives me the lockbox code because because I asked the tech, he said, no furniture in the house. It's cold. I said, all right, why don't I go over there and get the measurements? Let's meet at your house where you're living. She's renting a house currently. We'll sit down at your kitchen table there and we'll just go over all your options, help you build a specification, and then we can go from there. So I go to the home, got all the measurements, was able to go and spend more time in detail to figure out how to make this work and convert into a furnace AC to a heat pump, because I'd already kind of set that up a little bit too with her. Because she's already getting kind of scared of gas, especially since she's got a cracked heat exchanger. The gas company's already condemned it. She's never had gas before. I'd rather just not even have gas in that.
Wow, they
And
really go either way down there in North Carolina, don't they? Some of them are like, I'd just rather have a heat pump, and others are like, oh, I had a bad experience with a heat pump. Must be the heat pump's fault.
well, what was funny earlier today, before I went over this call, my dad, I was stopped by to see my parents, and my dad's like, yeah, I would never buy a heat pump again. This thing's always too cold.
See
I
the
was like, Dad,
thermostat on the wall?
I was like, Dad, you got your heat pump's 20 years old and you took the heat strips out because you don't want it to pay for the electric heat.
He took them
It's gonna be
out,
cold. He took them out. He has no heat strips. And so it
and he
goes in
keeps the
reverse.
thermostat at 66 instead of 73.
Right. So I mean that house is cold, but that's
That's his
because his
thermostat's fault, not his heat pump's fault.
he's just too cheap to do it right. So I explained to him, there's a better way, but it doesn't matter. There's some people, including my dad, that you can't change their mind. So anyway, so with her, I was able to figure it all out, got it all mapped out how we could do it as far as logistics go with the electrical and such.
Would you do a heat pump water heater or just a regular electric?
Just a regular electric
Okay.
heat pump. And the panels right, there's a pull down in the garage where their equipment is. The panel's right below it, so you can run a new wire if you need to, whatever. So it would
And
work
what is it, a
just fine.
200 amp panel?
It was only a 1,200 square foot house,
Oh,
and
okay.
I believe it was 150.
Okay. So lots.
Yeah. So met her at her house, told her I was on the way. Got there, invited me in, very nice. Sat down at a table that was clean, and we were able to. It was a little bit awkward, I will say, because the flow of it was different, because it wasn't like the regular flow of
Right.
how
I've
you would do
already
the
been to your
presentation.
house. I've done all this stuff, and I haven't
Right.
done any of it with you, which is
But she,
lubrication of the relationship.
right. So she had watched all the videos, so she was familiar with those, which even made it maybe a little bit that much more awkward, because we didn't have a chance to sit down and watch them together. And then, so I had a printed out sheet of the 6 functions of an air conditioner. I did pull up her pictures from her house. We went through each one that way, load matching, on down the list. And she really wanted most of those things. The the humidification is not as big a deal. Some people want to hear, most don't.
Right.
And especially a 1,200 square foot house, I said, look, we can always add this in later. More than likely, you could just buy a little plug in and put it in the bedroom. Probably be enough for the house if it ever got that dry. But we can always add one later if you like.
And that's where you need it anyway, is the bedroom. Because
Right.
you're there for so long. If you can bring up the moisture in there, that's good.
So then pull up she had already been kind of talking about, look, I don't need a whole lot of heat or cool. I'm used to, you know, homes that don't, we don't set thermostat real high or low depending on the season. And I'm like, why are you saying that? And are you concerned about power bill or what? She's like, no, I just don't think it's necessary. So anyway, it started making more sense to her about, having longer run time and cycle times and variable speed. And so all that made perfect sense to her. So when we did the likely load range, she went down a half a size,
Now
even
this
though
is
we
a
didn't know.
1,200 square foot house.
1,200 square foot house, it was 2.5 tons.
Okay.
So it was too much. And and one of the reasons was, she only has 2 tons of ductwork,
Okay.
like eight supplies. So we she went down a half a size with the intention of getting one of the variable speed options, not the single stage.
Okay.
And so we're looking at, the three, or there's 4 options, but really just looking at the 3. And she wanted, she wanted good mixing. She wanted, all these things, good filtration, all these things were important to her. So, and then came down to like more of a payment type situation where she really could only afford about $200 a month. But she really wanted the fresh air. And that seems be a very common thing, that everybody that I've presented that to wants the fresh air. That is one thing they want.
And that's not an
Without question.
inexpensive option.
Mm-mm. That adds,
That's 2 to 3
20.
grand, right?
Yeah, that adds at least $25 a month,
Okay.
for a payment. So, yes, but that was something she had to have. So anyway, so she ended up with the crossover option, which she was leaning on the 5-stage or the crossover. And so she was willing to sacrifice a little bit of dehumidification so that she could get the fresh air and afford the payment. So that's what she ended up with. And I made it clear with her that she has other options if she decides that
Yeah,
it's
she can
too
buy
humid
a
in there.
dehumidifier at Home Depot for $300.
Right.
And that might do it. Small
Yep.
house like that.
Right. So we got her, she picked her package. I priced it out. She signed it, got their financing set up and approved right there in the spot, got it on the schedule. We chatted for a while. So really the warm up was at the end, really, after it in the post close.
Okay.
And learned a lot from her.
So she
And
chose not to get quotes.
no, well, she already had 2 quotes from those other 2 companies.
Oh,
And they
right,
were
right. But they'd already lost the deal.
right. They quoted furnaces and ACs, and she didn't trust them. They didn't know what was what, or she didn't know. She just didn't trust them at all. So yeah, she wasn't going to do business with them. So, we were, probably more than they were, but obviously they were just quoting single stage equipment and furnaces. And so got on the schedule. She's looking forward to it.
Neat.
She kept talking
Oh,
about
because
the
she'll
fresh
be in
air.
the
So
house. Means she gets to
right.
get in the house.
Yep.
You guys doing the water heater for her?
No, we don't do any plumbing. So
Okay.
but I did talk to her several times about, she could eliminate that gas water heater, put in a heat pump and water heater. And my understanding is they do offer some tax credits for those too. We're not plumbers, but might be something you want to check into. You could save that meter fee. And when I said that, she's like, you know what? Ever since I've been there, they've been charging me $25 a month, and they got my meter locked. The meter's locked, and they're charging me $25 a month.
I'm going to
So
get it back. I'm not going to be their
Yes.
client.
Right. So it definitely hit a little pain point when we were talking about that. So she may have spent too much money at this point to do that right now, but it's definitely on the list.
Okay. So the water heater ain't broken.
It's not. It could be when they go to turn on the pilot, but probably not. It's probably fine.
Okay. Well, sounds like you're making every sale you could make.
Well, I'm trying, but somebody's going to do something for those people, other people. It may be a repair,
Right.
but I couldn't help them.
Their budget was $4,000.
Right. Limited budget.
And that was a heat pump.
That was a heat pump.
There's how much would it cost to just go with a crappy outdoor unit and reuse the indoor one? I guess you'd need a coil too, wouldn't you? And that was air
Right.
handler. You can't probably replace a coil in an air handler, can you?
Because it's a different type of refrigerant. That's not an option that I can offer.
Okay.
I'm sure somebody could do it.
Hmm. That's a situation where if you got some kind of a piece of used equipment, you offer it to them.
Right.
Sounds like they obviously were over their head in the house.
Right. If we could offer them to repair the compressor, they would have gone that route. Sounds like there's people out there that
So that are
might
they
do
on
it.
backup heat now, or that's not?
I don't think they fully understood that they could do that
Oh,
because they had a Nest thermostat, so they didn't understand how to switch it to emergency heat, and so it was still blowing cold air.
is there
And
a
I
way
wasn't
to
there
do
to.
that with a Nest thermostat? I mean, those things are terrible, right?
I have no idea, to be honest with you, and I wasn't about to try to figure it out while I was there.
Right.
It's probably some way to switch it to emergency heat.
So sounds like your year's starting out okay.
Yeah, not too bad. We have another lead tomorrow. So we'll see how I do with that.
Okay, so that'll be 4 leads so far,
Yep, 4 leads for the year.
and that'll be the 6th day. So
Yep. Yeah, so not too bad.
did you hear about that third guy, the guy who went for surgery? You hear back from him?
Haven't heard from him yet.
Okay. Just
Have not.
radio silence.
Radio silence might be time to poke him again.
Huh. I'd be inclined to leave him.
Let him center.
That's what he's doing, unless he's gone another way. But
Right
sounds
now, I
like
don't
you
think
had the relationship pretty well developed.
I don't think he's going anywhere.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
HVAC 2.0 thing is working for you still.
Oh yeah.
Now you got to get a couple of comfort consults under your belt so that you're familiar with that end of the process.
Yep.
Did you talk to them about that?
Have not.
Okay.
Not today. I haven't had time today.
All right. All right. I'm going to stop the recording here. Thanks.
Okay.